Hi, everybody. Welcome back to 4AR People. My name is Leah, and it has been so long, and I'm sorry about that. But thank you for staying with us. Thank you for keeping up. Thank you for watching all the other videos, and I hope you watch this one too. And I missed you so much. All right. So today's video is going to be just pretty much a news update. I'm going to be updating everybody on some things that we are seeing out of the state of Arkansas, especially like things that we saw during legislative session that are now being maybe challenged in court. I'm going to be talking about three major things. I'm going to be talking about FEMA a little bit and what's going on with FEMA. And then I'm going to be talking about the nitrogen gas situation. And then I'm also going to be talking about the 10 Commandments. So I know those are very, very different topics, and I know that they're very random, but stay tuned for the whole video if you're interested, and let's get into it, guys. All right, so first I want to talk a little bit about FEMA. And what I mean by this is I want you to remember when Arkansas was plagued by some horrible storms. People lost their homes, people lost their loved ones. It was horrible and so sad for our state, and we needed some help, right? And Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she requested money from FEMA and the Trump administration, and we were denied. And so she had to do some begging. You know, Tom Cotton, John Bozeman got in there and did some begging. Our whole congressional delegation did some begging, and we got the funding. But it took a minute. It took way too long. And I want you to remember that when I tell you this headline that I'm about to read. FEMA to send states $608 million to build migrant detention centers. That is mind-blowing, and that is the society, the state, the country we're living in right now. FEMA is starting a detention support grant program to cover the cost of states building temporary facilities, according to their announcement. And this is really disheartening because Arkansans were struggling. They were rebuilding their lives. And now you're sending money to states to lock up people, essentially. That's a wild thing. And the reason I'm like connecting the dots here right now is because, and you know, this has just been word on the street, word of mouth. This has not been confirmed, but a lot of people believe that the prison that Arkansas, the prison that is being built in Franklin County, in Arkansas, Charleston, will be like at least partly holding undocumented immigrants. And so this is kind of really scary because this could get really close to home. And a lot of people also have even compared our situation to what is happening in Florida. In Florida, they are building Alligator Alcatraz, which is going to be a migrant detention facility. It's already been on everybody's radar for like the inhumane nature of it. And so I'm really nervous about this. And also, I'm not nervous for no reason, because I want to read you this tweet that Aaron Pilkington decided to respond to. Our Representative Aaron Pilkington, Arkansas State Representative Aaron Pilkington. So the tweet reads, Homeland Security's NOM in talks with 5 Republican-led states to build another Alligator Alcatraz-inspired detention site. And then he quote tweeted it and said, is Arkansas one? I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. So, like I said, nothing's been confirmed on whether the prison in Franklin County is going to hold undocumented immigrants, whether it is going to be a detention facility. As far as we know, it's just going to be a prison, a new prison because of the overcrowding or whatever. As far as we know. So I don't want to say that that's a thing that's happening, but it is really interesting when all these things are put together. So I want to put that on everybody's radar. I'm really nervous about it. And also I wanted to read a comment from our Instagram post about this that really stuck with me. It says, so we can't get help with one disaster, but we can help create one. That's crazy. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Let's move on to our next story. All right. So this one is straight from the headlines, people. Nearly half of Arkansas's death row inmates sue to block nitrogen gas execution. That is a wild headline, but it's 100% true. It is happening. That is something that's happening. So let's talk about it. So earlier this year, the Arkansas legislature did amend the Arkansas code that related to capital murder and punishment for capital murder. So they changed it from death by lethal injection to just death, to allow for nitrogen gas to be used during execution so out of the 23 inmates facing execution in the state of Arkansas, 10 of them have entered this to sue the state of Arkansas, claiming that the law is unconstitutional, that it gives too much authority to unelected people, in reference to the Department of Corrections, right? Or Division of Corrections, sorry. And they're now empowered to gas them to death, despite that all of them were sentenced under the law before this was passed, right? And so, that's a valid point. But before I continue, I do want to say, yes, all of these people are murderers. They're convicted murderers, right? But they're still human, you know what I mean? And we talk a lot about like humane treatment in prison, humane treatment in the prison system, right? And so that is period, point blank. They're human. They still have their constitutional rights. And yeah, so I just wanted to get that out the way. I also want to note that Arkansas has not executed anyone since 2017. And so a lot of these, or all of these people, I believe, do not have death dates set yet. And so that's also something to keep in mind. Like, there is time to do something about this. There is time to make sure that that is the way that they are executed. So like I said, when these people were all convicted, the law explicitly stated death by lethal injection. It did not say gas. And the lawyer representing a lot of them said that the General Assembly cannot rewrite those verdicts to impose death by this very different and highly problematic method. They also note how the law is not specific as it relates to nitrogen gas. It doesn't say how nitrogen gas can be used. It doesn't say whether it's how much can be used. It doesn't say will it be by a mask or it's just very not clear. And so that's also a problem with it. It also says that they also say that the law is a separation of powers violation because the law illegally modifies their sentence since each inmate has been specifically sentenced to death by lethal injection. Like I said, when they were sentenced by a jury, when a jury, found them guilty and gave them the death penalty, right? The law was by lethal injection. So the jury did not sentence them to death by nitrogen gas, period. They couldn't have, because it wasn't the law. So that is something to think about. That is happening, and we will keep you up to date on that. I also wanted to read a comment that was on our Instagram about when we were talking about this during legislative session that I thought was really interesting. So it says, gas just seems like they want a way to execute people in bulk. And I'm not going to say I agree with that or disagree with that. That is an interesting comment to think about and sit with. So let's move on to our last story, and we will keep y'all updated on this as it moves along and progresses. So, all right, for the last story, I want to talk about how a federal judge blocked the law that would require the 10 Commandments to be shown in Arkansas public school classrooms, in 4 of our school districts. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Timothy L. Brooks, it narrowly applies to 4 out of the state's 237 districts. But in his ruling, he had a great quote, which I want to read. So let me read it for you right quick. It says, "Why would Arkansas pass an obviously unconstitutional law?" Great question. Great question. We're all thinking it. "Most likely because the state is part of a coordinated strategy among several states to inject Christian religious doctrine into public school classrooms." So that is a statement that he made in that. And, I obviously agree with it. So the complaint was brought by parents on the grounds that it violates the separation of church and state. he ruled that that was the case. It also has constitutional concerns. Freedom. We talk a lot about the freedom of religion and how it doubles as freedom from religion, right? And forcing a religious document, because that's what it is. It is a religious document. By forcing a religious document to be displayed in classrooms, really does like impede on that. I don't know how you can say it doesn't. And if you recall, I did a reaction video when this was in committee, about just reacting to them debating it. And a lot of them were saying it was a historical document, which is not untrue, but it does, just because it's historical does not mean it is also not religious. Okay. Two things can be true at once. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, people. It can be historical and it can be religious, but it is both. It is literally both. And so, yeah, so the ACLU of Arkansas, the legal director of the ACLU of Arkansas, John L. Williams, said the court saw through this attempt to impose religious doctrine in public schools and upheld every student's right to learn free from government-imposed faith. We're proud to stand with our clients, families of many different backgrounds who simply want their kids to get an education. That's it. That's all. It's not, no one's anti-Christian. No one's anti-Ten Commandments. It's just if the Constitution is going to work the way we want it to work, it's like, if the Constitution is going to work the way it's supposed to, right? It's like, how can you justify that? Especially if you're not like requiring other religious documents that are also historical, right? Every religion's got its history. What do you mean? Why wouldn't you require other religious documents if you're going to require one? That's a question I would love an answer to. I would love it. And so, yeah, so that's where we sit right now. Like I said, it only applies to 4 out of our 237 districts. Yeah, I also wanted to read Sarah Huckabee Sanders' reaction from Twitter, and then I'll read a comment as well. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders replied and said, "In Arkansas, we recognize basic truths like murder is wrong. The 10 Commandments are foundational to Western law and morality, and they should be displayed in public places. My administration will appeal this ruling and win." I just want to say, I'm not going to disagree that murder is wrong. That murder is a basic truth and that it's wrong. But the thing about that is, it is not like wrong because it's in the 10 Commandments. It's wrong because it's the law. It's a law. Like we have a law that says murder is wrong. Murder is bad. We just talked about like execution and punishment for capital murder. We just talked about it's wrong. It's a law. Those people are not convicted of violating a 10 commandment, one of the 10 commandments. They're convicted of violating the law. And so we're not like forcing every single Arkansas law to be displayed across the wall, because that would be insane and crazy, especially for like a second grade classroom, you know what I mean? Or like a elementary school classroom. It's like, why would you have the law? Like, they don't need to like necessarily be seeing that every day, just like they don't necessarily be needing to see the 10 Commandments every day. And I don't have a problem with, like I said, I don't have a problem with the 10 Commandments. My thing is, why that? Why? Is my thing. So that was Sarah Huckabee Sanders' reaction. And then I also wanted to read this comment, which I'm trying to do more of. I'm trying to read more of the comments. So I wanted to read this comment about the situation. It says, "The majority of the 10 Commandments are just decent common behavior. Those can be listed anywhere as just decent behavior that in any society all humans want. No specific religion mentioned." And I wholeheartedly disagree with this, because let's take a look at the 10 Commandments, shall we? Let's pull up the 10 Commandments, shall we? All right, so you don't have to go very far down the line of the 10 Commandments to just know that's not true, right? Because the very first one says, "You shall have no other gods before me." Now, if it's not mentioning a specific religion, what God is it talking about? What God is it talking about? And why is there only one? It's basically saying there's only one and no gods before me is what it's saying. Let's move down the line. Number 3, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." What do you mean? What do you mean it doesn't mention a specific religion? These are literally the 10 Commandments. Also, the history of the commandments. It's like the commandments were given by God to Moses and can be found in the Holy Bible. Exodus 20, 2 through 17, and Deuteronomy 5, 6 through 21. So these commandments are straight out of the Bible, given by God to Moses. That seems like a very specific religion to me personally. And so that's all I'm going to say on that. That's all I have to say on that. We will keep you updated on what happens with this. I believe it's supposed to take effect this school year, not for those 4 districts, but maybe everywhere else. So like, if y'all have a story, if you're a parent out there and this is happening to your children's school, if you are interested in letting us know, definitely comment below and let us know. And this is something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. So yes, I say all this to say, yeah, let's move on. All right, y'all, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a while, but we're back at it, and I can't wait to keep doing these videos, and I hope you all enjoyed. So make sure, if you did enjoy, if you learned something, if you liked it a lot, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. All those buttons are there somewhere. Make sure you follow us on all our other platforms to keep updated with all the work that we're doing. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. So definitely check us out. Hit those follow buttons, and I can't wait to see y'all again. If y'all have any video ideas for your girl, if y'all want to hear anything like anything specific, let us know in the comments below. DM us on all our other platforms. And yeah, it's been real. See y'all soon. Bye.